Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Encrypted Connections. I am your host, Kyle. And tonight, it looks like we are going to have our special guest. We were having a few technical difficulties, but he is here. And what better guest to have on the special early Christmas edition of Encrypted Connections than Mr. Christopher Noel. How are you tonight, buddy?
Great. Something you don't know is my birthday is also the day after Christmas.
Get the heck out of here.
Can you imagine such a thing?
I could not imagine. You definitely have the most holiday-themed name I've ever heard.
Thank you.
I'm getting
it's really weird. Are you? Let's test. Test. Can you?
I can hear. I'm getting a little bit of some kind of like crackling, but it might just be me.
Let me change microphones. Hello, everybody out there. I hope you can hear me. Sorry, we're having this trouble.
I'm gonna pull my headphones out real quick. Hold on. Yeah, it's my headphones. Well, that's better. Are you there? Nope, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. One of those nights. They hear us both well, she said. What is going on? I don't get it. Hold on.
Okay, how about now? Hello?
Hold on. Let me find my other earphones because maybe these are shot.
Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Janelle. Hi, Trish. Hi, Hope Rising. Hi, Sandra.
Let's try these.
Can you guys hear me? Well, maybe it's just on Kyle's end.
Let's try these. Let's see. I don't know what is going on here.
Gremlins.
I have such a bad crackling noise over here. It's terrible. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a fan. What is going on? Let me check something real quick. Let me try my audio. Audio. Yeah, that didn't help at all.
Well, the listeners are saying they can hear us both, and nobody's mentioning a crackling sound. So maybe it's just.
All right. Well, maybe it's my crappy headphones. Anyway, so let's just do it then. Welcome.
Can you hear me enough to decipher what I'm saying?
Now they're saying they can hear the fan sound. I hear crackling faintly.
Oh.
Oh, what is going on?
Well, let me try again.
It's not you. It's not you. It's definitely not you.
It's not? Well, if it's not me, okay. I don't know how you know that.
Because I can hear you perfectly clear. I can hear you perfectly clear. It's literally, I don't know what's going on.
Hi, Long Island Bigfoot. You can hear me clear, but when does the crackling come about?
It's like I'm hearing something like coming through my earphones from inside my computer, if that makes any sense at all.
Can you just listen to the computer speaker and not the earphones?
Let me see. Hello?
Hello? Hi, Ray. Hi,
That ain't
Elizabeth.
working either.
Hi, Long Island. Hi, Autumn Leaf.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This is crazy. This is crazy. Uh-oh. And we lost him. Are you there?
I'm here, but now there's a band of black at the top. Oh, I know what's happening. I lost my camera. Let me...
Okay, now I'm better. I'm much better now. I plugged into my Yeti and I can hear things way better.
Okay. Let my camera back. Maybe by the grace of God. Close other apps. Another app is using the camera already. No, I don't want that. Holy crap. Ugh. Well, here's the sucky camera. Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah. Yeah, you
Well,
look
maybe
and
we should
sound.
just...
You look and sound fine.
Well, this is the low resolution camera, but let's get going.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. All right, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. These things happen. This is real life, not just YouTube world. So yeah, tonight, special early Christmas edition with Mr. Christopher Noel, a good buddy, a very good buddy. Actually, I would say that Christopher is the first person I think that I ever spoke to that was part of the Sasquatch community. Before I ever had a show, before I ever did any of this, I reached out to him after I watched his documentary, and I just wanted to let him know how much I enjoyed it. And he very kindly wrote me back. And then we got in contact again when I started this show and started doing this. And yeah, here we are. So,
yeah, it's funny. We've been communicating for quite a while, and quite regularly, and friendlyly. We're buddies already, but we've never actually spoken to each other live like this, or seen each other while our mouths are moving, or heard each other while we're looking at each other. So this is quite a thrill.
This is
And
a first.
hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. The first 10 minutes was poetry in motion.
Yeah. Poetry in motion is a good way to put it. So for the people who are here and may not know who you are, I always like to start at the beginning. So what was it that got you interested and started in the Bigfoot community?
Well, I don't know about the community, but when I was 11 years old, I saw the Patterson film. And I was in that. You can sort of divide the human race between those who see that and instantly realize that it's not a human being, and those who somehow don't have that sharp enough eye to realize that. Even, long before all these fancy analysis videos by M.K. Davis and Thinker Thunker, etc., came out, it was clear that it didn't walk like a human being, and its proportions weren't those of a human being. So anyway, I was 11 years old, and I didn't know from gait and proportions, but I said, "Holy smokes!" And that lodged in my mind, captured my imagination from way back then. And then many years went by, and I always thought, someday I'm gonna go out and pursue this fascinating fellow. I didn't think it was a fellow human species back then. Now I know that it is. But I just knew that it was this human-looking monster, and I was amazed by it. And then, so I thought you had to be really lucky and just kind of come across one walking in front of your car, or walking in the woods and catch one by surprise or something. But then in 2005, I realized that there are expeditions that people take, and where you can learn about their habitat and their habits, and how to make certain overtures to them that might get a response. And this was the BFRO expeditions. And so for the next year and a half, I flew all over the country going on these expeditions, and I was completely hooked. I didn't have much action in terms of interaction, in terms of encounters with Sasquatch. But what I learned from the veteran researchers who were on these trips was invaluable. And sitting around the campfire and just trading stories. Well, I just was listening at that point. I had no stories. It was just so. I mean, I was like a religious convert. Everything now was seen through the lens of Sasquatch, and that was 17 years ago, and I haven't looked back since. I've had to take a vow of poverty because it doesn't exactly. There's not a lot of government funding for this work. Put it that way.
No, there's
Um,
not.
but I've followed my heart and been writing books and making research videos ever since. And it's I wouldn't have it any other way. So after going on these expeditions for a while, I through word of mouth and networking online, I came to realize that the better way to approach this inquiry, this trying to form a relationship with this kindred species, is to look to habituation sites, because I learned about those, and I got in contact with folks who were living on properties and in houses where Sasquatch would more regularly come around and never directly interact with you, but would make their presence known through all sorts of indirect means, like slapping the house at 3 a.m, or throwing pebbles up on the roof and you can hear them bouncing down, or peeking in the window, but as soon as you look, they run away. And rearranging your objects. One of the people that I was in touch with in Texas would have her garden tools moved around, and she found her hoe 50 feet up in a tree one day. So I came to see that they're like tricksters, and that they have this double-sided behavior profile. They both avoid us like the plague, and then they seek us out like the cure. That's one of my little mottos. They avoid us like the plague. They seek us like the cure. And it's a very strange ambivalence that they seem to have. But they definitely do seem to long for contact with us. But they for whatever reason, they can't sit down on a front porch with us and share a burger and a beer. So I was fascinated by this, and 6 of the habituators, both individuals and families in some cases, were generous enough to share their experiences with me, their testimonials for the first book that I still have in print. Had an earlier one that kind of got superseded by the next one. It's called Our Life with Bigfoot. And so this was about habituation sites. So I still think that's the preferred road to attempting to form relationships with these creatures, these people. I'm sorry, people. I'm still sometimes default to the old lingo.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes, man. You hear the terms for so long, it's difficult. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you just have to be extraordinarily patient for years to increasingly decrease the innate mistrust that they have of us, and the fear that we have of them, and to sometimes reach out through objects, gifting back and forth. I mean, most of your audience knows this, if not everybody already, but maybe somebody watching later won't. But people trade objects, food, and pretty things like marbles and crystals, food and sandwiches, and all sorts of little trinkets, and they have them very intelligently rearranged, or else they'll have a certain thing like a blue marble taken, and it'll be replaced by a red marble. And squirrels aren't going to do that. It's not going to do that. So one of the best practitioners of this sort of move by move game between species is Angie in Ohio, Snow White Bigfoot. And so I've been in touch with her for years and admired her work and used it as the cornerstone in a couple of my books. Anyway, I'm just babbling now.
No, you're good. This is what we want you here for. Yeah, Angie's incredible. Talk about a catalog of evidence that's ongoing. A diary that she has is just, it's remarkable.
She has 126 or 127 diary entries, like videos, and some of them are over an hour long, some of them are half an hour, but I would say that she has close to 100 hours of documentation of all the nuances, sometimes subtle, sometimes overwhelmingly blatant, of the object communication that she's had back and forth with these folks. And it really it provides a window into their mindset, into their sense of humor, and the sort of connections that they make. Like there's lots of associative thinking. Like she'll have some little matchbox cars. That's an old-fashioned term. The young folks won't know what matchbox cars are, but these little sports cars, little cars that we used to collect as boys and girls. And she'll have like a line of 3 of those, and then she'll wake up one morning and go out, and there's a 4th one that she's never seen, but it's also a matchbox car. So they'll associate similarity with similarity and color with color, and they just that seems to float their boat. It's hard to know why. I mean, I have a theory about parallels with autism.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this because I think I've worked in the field with autistic.
That's right, you have, yeah.
Adults and children. Well, not children, but adolescents.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the behavioral characteristics that coincide with a lot of the stuff that I saw with some of my clients for years. The swaying and rocking, an affinity for certain types of textures, and not being able to keep their hands off of certain things. One thing I keep hearing over and over from people who play these games, quote unquote, is that like they love shiny surfaces, and it's like they can't keep their hands off of them.
Well, that might be some of the attraction of marbles.
Right.
They're both shiny and they're see-through, and they're kind of like crystals, and
they feel good in your hand. They
feel good in your hands. They roll them around. Everybody loves marbles, and
right.
And since Sasquatch and us were originally half siblings. I mean, they're half human in the beginning. They probably are less. Anyway, that's a whole can of worms. But it makes sense that they would like some of the same things that we like. And also, autistic people will make structures to kind of ward off the kind of chaos and anxiety that they feel.
Yes.
The structures may be internal, like memorizing the train schedule of Great Britain completely, or they may be external. Autistic kids, and I'm assuming adults too, will arrange their possessions in a very particular way, so that they feel that their world has become more reliable, and more recognizable and more personalized to who they are as an external representation of the order that they seek within, I guess. And similarly, Sasquatch, of course, make these stick and tree structures that are repetitions of just a kind of a few forms, archetypal Sasquatch structure forms that we see in North America and Russia and Australia and Great Britain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're the same repeated forms, like the teepee structures, the tree bends, the parallels, the symmetry of kind of hut-like structures. There's X's. You just see them all over the place. And if you ever find yourself searching for these structures, you can search in Russia. There are some videos of Russian structures, and of course, the Yowie in Australia makes the very same kinds of things. And so there's this kind of archetypes that the species in general throughout the world seem to fall back on and really crave to organize their world, to order their world. And that's similar to autistic people too. So I'm not saying that they are autistic in some simple, straightforward one-to-one correspondence, but I think my hunch is that our shared ancestor way back in the day had some form of autism. And of course, I'm not talking about the debilitating autism. I'm talking about autistic savantism, where there's a genius level of ability to use your mind to understand the world, the way it works, and to see solutions to problems and to repeat things, repeat routines that are successful, and photographically remember where certain territorial advantages might be, et cetera, et cetera. I think the common ancestor may have had a sort of baseline version of autism, and it helped it. It had a survival advantage in evolution. And then the two lines of us, the Sasquatch line and the Homo sapiens line, each developed these traits and these gifts, these cognitive powers, faculties in a different way. So there's still a lot of overlap, but there's also differences.
Let me ask you a question, going back just a little bit, because I had conversation just recently about this. What do you say to the people that say that these beings don't make structures, that this is all weather related, nature related, that why would they make structures? They don't need them. They don't need to hide behind a structure when they have the perfect camouflage built into their their physical form. What do you say to those people?
Well, most of the structures we find of theirs are not for shelter. You can tell that they're not built that way. They're not big enough, or they have all this open space, so they don't protect from the elements. All higher primates, including, of course, ourselves, manipulate the environment and build out of it. And, they have larger brains than us. They have capable hands, plenty of time on their hands, and it would be shocking if they didn't manipulate their environment. And so if we saw other ways they manipulated it, we could point our finger at that, but these are the ways that we see. And my approach to field research is to go to a forest, even if it's just a small one, within city limits or town limits or right next to a town, even these micro forests. If you find suspicious structures that don't seem like they're Boy Scouts or kids or our species, but you're not sure, then just leave out an audio recorder night after night. And if you start hearing wood knocks and tree pushes and vocalizations at 3 a.m. in the very same place where these structures are, then you're not 100% sure, but you're 96% sure. And you can't expect more than that. And if you continue to sort of sit on the fence and let the perfect evidence be the enemy of the strong evidence, then you're never going to make any progress in deciding, okay, this is part of their territory. And then I go out and I sleep there. And then I have trees pushed down within 20 feet of me. And I have wood knocks and I have vocalizations and footsteps and all the rest. And it's a life affirming thrill for me to have that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so perhaps it's kids at 3 a.m. knocking on trees. Homo sapiens kids knocking on trees and pushing huge trees over, but I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
That to me is it's called a preponderance of evidence rather than and no, that's wrong. Let me retract that, because that's as opposed to beyond a reasonable doubt. And for me, it is beyond a reasonable doubt. Preponderance of evidence is just 51%, but this is far more than that, especially because we know the species exists based on a mountain of other evidence. And and we know that the species makes wood knocks based on years and years of research. And if we know that, and we hear wood knocks middle of the night, and there's a monumental structure using 1,000-pound trees, it's a no-brainer, and you just be kind of deluding yourself if you over apply the conservatism that science is so famous for.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It gets me frustrated because I kind of pride myself on the fact that when I go out, I really do my best at never saying anything is for sure. Like, this is 100% for sure that was a Sasquatch. I just don't do it. This is a personal thing for me. When I'm looking at these structures, though, and I have other people who've come with me, right, who have pretty discernible eye, and you go, all right, let's really break this thing down. Let me look at this. This is a tree that's 40 feet long. It's 24 inches around. It probably weighs in the neighborhood of 400 or 500 pounds. That's probably even a conservative estimate, right? It has a root ball attached to it, and somehow it is 35 feet in the air.
But those are the obvious ones, yes.
Right. But even people will still try to say, like, to these things, like, well,
microburst.
Yeah, microburst. Placed it there just perfectly. Like,
perfectly balanced in there.
Man, it just gets so frustrating. It's like,
well, I always think of the structure thing as just being part one, step one. That's why I do the audio after. And it seems very few people follow up the visual reconnaissance with audio. I think that's the way to go. And I've been preaching this for years, and it doesn't seem. I mean, some people write to me and said, "I've been trying that, and it's working." I think it's because it takes a lot of patience. You have to listen to hundreds of hours, not hundreds of hours before you'll hear your first wood knock, but to continue to compound the evidence, you need to keep listening and keep upping the ante of reassurance to yourself that this is what it is. And because even those of us who understand that the species exists, and in your case have seen them very, very vividly, second guess ourselves when it comes to this sort of circumstantial evidence. So you keep pushing and keep pushing and keep trying to dig it. What am I trying? You keep trying to increase the certainty level.
Yeah. Understand. Well, it's understandable. I mean, this is a difficult subject. It's a tough topic. It's been ridiculed for, since the very beginning. It still is. The majority of people in the United States still don't believe that this is real, although that number is increasing year by year, which is a very good thing. I think.
I hope the number is decreasing, because you were saying that don't believe.
I meant increasing the number of people who do believe.
I figured you meant that. I wanted to give you the chance to
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you mean that when you go out there, and as you recently have, you find these 14, 15-inch tracks with 5 toes, you still don't let yourself be confident?
Not 100%. No, I don't. And I don't know why. So that remember this track I sent you, the one in the sand?
Yeah.
Right. The one that was just about 15 inches long.
Yeah.
That one, I right, like today I can say, yeah, all right, that I completely think that is what it is. This 3-foot trackway that just found the other day, it's tough, man. I place a lot of pressure on myself, I think, because I don't ever want anything to blow back. I don't ever want anyone to try to say, like, man, look at that. You can't see 5 toes. You can see maybe 2. And then, and it was a tough, that's the thing. The first one showed toe impressions from the other day, for sure. I mean, it looked like toes to me. It looked like toes to everybody in the chat. But it looked like 2, maybe 3. It was very muddy. It was very wet. So, then it becomes very distorted at the end and at the side. And it's like, but
yeah, at the margins it gets ambiguous, but when it's 5 clear toes and it's 14 inches, there's just nothing else it could be.
Yeah.
Like in the winter, if you see 3-foot spaced impressions, it can be lots of things hopping, like a bunny or a fox or something. But in the mud, things don't tend to hop along like that and leave impressions like that.
No, and this was not 3 feet. This was like almost 5
5 feet.
feet.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. This was a massive stride. Which that was the other thing that kind of made me a little bit, well, I mean, if you're doing the math, 14-inch track, a 5-foot stride. I mean, that to me, 14-inch track, what are you looking at? 8 foot, 9 foot, maybe? Is that a
Yeah.
5-foot stride?
Hard to make the correlation, but I mean, there's always a 0.0042% chance that there's some kind of bird of prey that was hopping along. I mean, that was like going from 5 foot to 5 foot to 5 foot after some mouse or squirrel or something, and it was leaving impressions that looked like toes. But that's a low percentage.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think you understand. I just don't want to ever paint a picture that like I would rather lean that way than the other way too far. Do you know what I'm saying? I'd rather be really much more difficult, like hard on myself, and question things a lot harder than to go the other way and say, too many things are evidence when they're
Well,
not.
between those two options, that's true. I would rather that too. But then what gets my goat, if you will, is when people want 100%. Like
Yeah.
there's even people, I won't name names here tonight, but I'm going to complain about some people anonymously. There's people who say, well, unless you see the Sasquatch leaving the track, you can't say that it's a Sasquatch. Or unless you see the Sasquatch knocking on wood, you can't say that that's a wood knock made by a Sasquatch. And that just seems to me a recipe for stagnation. You're never going to make any progress if you kind of content yourself with a perpetual fence sitting posture like that.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, and I agree. It's you in a subject like this. I think to a degree you kind of have to be flexible. You can't, it's like saying, a tiger does this, behavior, right? But and you hear this behavior in the woods, but if you're not standing right next to the tiger, no, it's not. You can't say it's a tiger.
Well,
But
that's the kind of dead end paradigm that I reject.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and when I put out my documentary last year, and at the end I have a figure that I'm sure is a young Sasquatch. Some people said, "Well, why are you just being so dogmatic about it? Why don't you just say, well, this could be or it could not be?" Well, because I have enough visual evidence to satisfy myself. Others wouldn't. I wish we had I don't know, like a 4-minute video of the best kind of
yeah, me too.
if
I
only
wish we did.
if we concentrate very hard, maybe there'll be a montage of some of the best visual proof that that's not a porcupine. But maybe I'm just being idealistic and pie in the sky about that.
No, you're not actually. If
Oh,
you give me,
did something just appear on your computer like out of
it is appearing right
magic?
now.
Holy smokes! What are the chances that that could take place in a modern secular world like ours?
I don't know, but it seems
Ooh.
really coincidental.
Hmm.
Um,
Hi,
Let me
Brown
see.
Dwarf. Hi, Brown Dwarf. Great to see you in here. Hey, Steve Wolf. Hey, that's
Okay.
right.
Let's share this. Chrome tab, vid for show, share, and play. Let's do it.
Can you enlarge it? No. After midnight on the 20th of September, 2021, I was walking into my usual campsite when I heard a wood knock. It comes from exactly the direction I'm headed. At a certain point, I hear a thumping on the ground. As if to get my attention. Hello?
Hello? Are you here?
Just staring right out at me, not bolting like a bear cub, say, would do.
A few seconds after that, she huddled up against the apple tree. You can see her apparently left foot here in the circle.
Some viewers thought, well, that's just a porcupine. But watching her legs gather here at the base of the tree, long primate legs, not stubby little rodent legs. And then seeing her hoist herself up using arms only, knees pressed against the trunk, we can tell exactly what she is not.
Once she gets up there, there's so much foliage that I hardly ever get a clear shot of anything but just a piece of her. Luckily, here we can see her arm, her elbow, her lengthy forearm, and fingers. And then she pulls something up and then over and down into her mouth, I would assume. I was also extremely privileged to have her head appear, or sort of appear, for a few seconds at the top of the tree. My friend and brilliant fellow researcher, Angie Sedgmer of Snow White Bigfoot fame, worked frame by frame in the program Lightroom. These 69 frames all run together don't look like much, but their speed obscures some very important detail that we can appreciate if we look at some frames individually and in small clusters. At the very beginning of the sequence comes the one most important frame. Running the film backwards, we arrive at this first frame, and there is her eye, peeking between these two leaves. There is a great deal of detail here. We can see a glint of moonlight off the white of her eye and her very distinct pupil with these two little offshoots from the pupil. Some of us have this too. It's called colobama. Something I only noticed the other day is that we can also make out vaguely some of her teeth in the open mouth. I was finally able to tease out more information. I'm really so grateful that we could extract so much information from this just 4 seconds of her head up there, kind of bobbing back and forth and looking down at me. She must have felt a lot safer up there, so her curiosity about me could kick in, whereas in the beginning she was pretty much out in the open and needed to scoot up the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, could you go back and replay? Just it's skipped over this somehow, where I'm showing the leg movement with my left leg under the tree, but in the daytime, and then it goes to her, because that parallel to me is kind of compelling. It's like a third of the way through or so.
Hold on. Let's see. Let me get to it.
Thank you. That's fresh. Appreciate that comment. I think so too, but you can't account for different people's, as we know from the world of politics, and that will be the last time we mention that. You can't account for some other brains that just don't work the way ours work. Well, if it's too hard, don't worry about it.
No, it's not at all. It's queued up right now. Here we go. Ready?
Don't play from the beginning. Just try to get to that part where you see my legs.
Yeah, it's coming up right after this.
Oh, you found it.
Little rodent legs.
No, forget it. It's not
And
working.
then
It might,
seeing her hoist herself
No.
up using arms only.
Not working?
no, it didn't. At least not. No, I think it just skips through. It doesn't show the parallel between how my leg moves and how her leg moves. So we should just forget about it.
Sorry. Well, let me tell you, we went through this. Me and you went through this a couple months back. We had this conversation, and again, I never say 100% anything, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I would lean at 99% sure that this is not a porcupine for many reasons. I'll tell you, number one, I've never seen a porcupine bend a knee before and have the bottom half of its leg that length, not where it's going to push it up against the trunk of a tree and then use it to shimmy up the tree. Just doesn't happen. Porcupine has like literally the stumpiest, shortest leg and a foot attached to that thing, and they just shimmy along the ground. This is not what they do.
They waddle. Yeah, they waddle along the ground.
Yeah, they waddle. The other part of this is as that thing is against that tree, where are its spines? I see hair, I don't see spines. And I know that some people said that at the picture of where its head is, that the few hairs that are sticking up in the moonlight were spines. But if that head is facing you, right, which it is, and I'll tell you why in 2 seconds. If it's facing you, the spines are not sticking straight up. Spines in a porcupine go backwards.
Go back. Yeah.
They lean back. Okay, they don't stand straight up. This is not what happens on this animal, and I know this because I'm an animal guy. Okay, the other part of this is we scrubbed through this, and I found something. I found that if you went through that footage when this creature is looking at you from that branch, at one point in that footage, you can see the reflection of both eyes facing forward, not the sides of the head. 2 forward-facing eyes, not the sides of the head where a porcupine's eyes would be. I mean, they're not completely on the sides of the head, but they're not straight ahead like our eyes are, or like a primate, part human, part primate's eyes would be.
And predators have forward-facing eyes, and prey have side eyes.
Yeah,
side eyes.
This is not a porcupine to me. It just isn't.
When I was able to finally see that foot and I put the circle around it, there's no part of a porcupine's anatomy that corresponds to that. Also, when it's huddled against a tree and pulling itself up, it's lacking something called a tail.
Yeah. What about the part where it's literally lifting its hand up with fingers, grabbing something, and then popping it towards its face?
Yeah. Porcupines eat like this. All rodents eat like this. They'll get something and then they'll go. They don't reach and go like that.
Right.
You ever seen a mouse do that?
No.
But this is a rodent we're talking about. So I was very lucky to get that hand, that arm, long forearm. And as you say, porcupines have stubby forearms and stubby hind legs. And they don't have elbows and fingers. They have claws.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a long, there's no scale, so we don't know how many inches this is, but they're morphologically, they're not set up that way.
Yeah, this is biologically, morphologically, this is far from a porcupine in my eyes. And like I said, I've been an animal guy for a long time. No, I'm not a scientist. No, I'm not a zoologist. But for many, many years, I studied animals on my own, worked with them. It's just not a porcupine. I'm sorry.
And the thing about it that really kind of annoyed and disappointed me was that there were a handful of people in the community who not only said, well, I'm not sure. I see that you think so, and I see why you think so, but here's why I'm not so sure. Instead, they decided to ridicule me and accuse me of one person, a prominent person in the community, accused me of knowing that it was a porcupine and yet pretending that I thought it was a Sasquatch. Thereby, impugning my very integrity, which, I've never given anyone any reason to impugn before, to doubt, to suspect. And And then there were a couple other people who were just needlessly cruel, just whipping up their viewers into laughing at me. Oh, this guy, boy, his, you know, he used to have some standing, but now he's lost all credibility. And it makes you wonder why. It makes you understand why people who have good evidence don't always come forward with it.
This is why people don't talk about this stuff, because there's too many people in the community who, they have these egos. They believe that their opinion is the only opinion that matters. This is a problem with this community too. I'm going to tell you right now, and it pisses me off. Excuse my language, but it's bullshit. This is a community that's already ridiculed top to bottom from the outside, from academics. We have no funding from the government. This is all done from out of our own pockets with our own time and putting our own reputations on the line. Why are we not working together? Why are we not lifting each other up? Why is it not, oh, hey, I don't think it is, but that's cool. Like, we can agree to disagree. Why don't we do that more? Why does it always have to be these douchebags who, for lack of a better term, who have to go out there and attack? I just don't get it. It makes no sense. This community needs more people to help each other. The last thing we need is people literally going at each other. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I get so angry.
Yeah, I can tell, and then it's honest anger, and I feel the same way. And we really suffered a blow in terms of cohesion and connectivity and inclusiveness when Kerry Arnold passed away. He was a hub. He was a figure of wide acceptance, both acceptance of him and his acceptance of others, and
right.
that people. He was an example of what we need more of in this community, and it's just an awful loss.
Yep, and guess what? That was a man that I looked up to very much, and he helped me in a lot of ways. He became a friend. He was a mentor. And if I learned anything from him, it was that we need more of this. We need more people helping. We need more people lifting each other up. So if there's anything that I do with this channel, if I do nothing else, it's going to be a place where anybody can come, share their opinions, thoughts, beliefs, evidence. You'll never, ever, ever hear me say anything negative. Never. I don't care. If it was me, I wouldn't want anyone to do it to me. I wouldn't.
Yeah. What about the golden rule? These sort of these trolls, and they're not all like peripheral trolls. There are some like quote unquote prominent figures who are trolls when it comes to new evidence. Like and you can take some solace from the fact that sometimes when great footage is first introduced, there's all sorts of ridicule. Like, I'm sure that back in Patterson days, there was ridicule, before we had the state-of-the-art breakdowns of the gate and the morphology and the proportions and that. And when Timber Giant Bigfoot, way back in 2013, put out the big red footage, at first people were like, "That's a bear. He's a hoaxer." A red bear in Ontario.
Amazing footage. Amazing.
That's one of the best. It's so clear, and it's just a shame and a pity that it didn't turn around and look at him so we could see the face. You have to deal with the side of the face, but then it stands up. It's incredibly bulky.
Yeah,
it stands up and it makes its way off again. And then in I think it was either Thinker Thunker or perhaps it was Bigfoot Tony who noticed that you can see it. I think it was Thinker Thunker. You notice that you can see it again, like a minute or two later, off in the forest to the left, walking between two trees, upright. And then Jim finds these nuts and these rocks that had been used to crack the nuts, and he'd been hearing that rock on rock or rock on nut sound before. And it all perfectly coheres, and yet still in that case there are people, oh, look at this, and and then the the northwestern Pennsylvania, the Jacobs photos. People were saying those are bears. That's an emaciate. You remember 2009? Maybe it was before.
Oh yeah. The trail cam photo.
Right, and it sort of muddies the water that there's a bear in one photo, but then the two other photos in that series of three are primate. But people, including Meldrum, say, no, it's a bear with mange. And then you do the simple math of its proportions, of its limb to torso ratio.
It's reaching out.
It's way outside of a bear.
Yeah, it's reaching out for whatever that was that he left out.
Yeah,
was that
exactly.
sweet corn or whatever?
Yeah, I forget. It was reaching out, and its arm is super long, its legs are super long. Bear's legs and arms, if you call them that, are not remotely that long. No. You just need some clear thinking that's not clouded up by agenda.
Sandra says, I think the more of us that are teaching our children and grandchildren the truth is what's going to change it. Well, I hope so too. And actually, and Janelle mentions her right here. We need Lauren Smith. I am reaching out to Miss Lauren Smith through email to try to get her on the show because this is something that she believes very strongly in. So do I. I have a nephew who loves this subject, loves it. He's 8 years old. He's wanted to come on the show. And if I had my way, I'd have him on the show. He'd be my favorite guest ever. But
his parents probably feel like that.
Well, yeah, his grandfather feels like maybe he shouldn't go on, but he wants to come out with me, and unfortunately, just the schedules haven't lined up. He does wrestling and he does this, and he does that, and I only go out on the weekends now. But he wants to go, and so when he gets the chance, he's gonna go because my brother's all for it, and why not, right? Why not?
I know why not. I mean, especially if it's not at nighttime. Even at night, it might be okay, but probably not until he's older.
Yeah.
But parenthetically, Long Island Bigfoot, that was a funny joke. He said it's unbearable. B-E-A-R. I appreciate that.
Good. But yeah, it's just we need more of what Kerry was doing, and I'm in no means trying to say that I'm Kerry. I'll never be Kerry. No one will ever be Kerry. But we can sure as hell try to carry on what Kerry was preaching. And so that's what we're going to try to do here. I may not be, as intellectually sound as Christopher Noel. I may not know body morphology ratios the way that Thinker does. I may not be the best at, this thing or that thing, but what I can do is I can create a space that's safe for everybody to come and share whatever it is that they have without the fear of being laughed at or, being trolled.
Judged in any way. Well, yep. I mean, it's overly mystical probably to think this way, but you were the last guest for Kerry, and there was a kind of, at some level, there's some sort of a torch subliminally or subconsciously passed, and so you'll do your best not to fill his shoes, but to do your own best job at creating this safe space, as you have been. I've been admiring your work these past few months, and I'm relieved that you exist.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's a quote from some poet wrote to another poet, and I read it in a book, and she said, "I'm relieved that you exist," and that always stuck with me. And some people, I really am relieved.
Well, thank you. That really means a whole lot. I whenever I have the chance to bring you up, and it's been on numerous occasions. For whatever reason, I've spoken about you in different videos and stuff. I hold you in high regard also.
Now we're just having a love fest, and people are going to start clicking out. They're going to say, "Get a room."
So, all right. So quit the love fest. Let's get back to the good stuff. So tell me a little bit about your habituation site and, when you started there, what's been going on. I know this year you maybe wasn't your best year from what you were saying, but you've had some really good stuff, though, over the years, including one of my favorites, The Music Man.
Yeah, years ago in 2004, 14 and 15, especially, I would go to this ravine near my house, like 2 miles as the crow flies from my house. And there was a lot of activity in this ravine. Three major things happened there. One was months worth of wood knock drumming. Wait, I have to read some of these things. Who are you laughing at?
Bernie, I believe Sasquatch exists. I'm still iffy on Kyle.
Okay.
Love. Mike says love light and power bills. Fresh says don't cock block the bromance.
Oh, whoa. Nice.
You guys are on a roll
They
tonight.
really are. You should just let them take over.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So one thing that happened was that this drumming, wood on wood drumming, and individual knocks and lots of drum riffs would happen every single freaking morning when I would go in there. And I nicknamed this individual Music Man because he was a drummer. He was an awesome drummer. And if anyone's interested, I have a video called My 2 Years of Learning in the Ravine on my YouTube channel, which is Impossible Visits. So I had like tons of interaction with him. I would knock and he would knock. I would talk to him and he would knock back, all this stuff. But the sound came from behind the screen, this thick screen of leaves. And then when it got to be October and the leaves came down, the drumming stopped. So I think he was just, as won't surprise anybody, just impeccably concealed behind the screen. And he would make this drumming every morning. And I would leave the recorder there when I left for the day and come back and get it. And the whole morning and afternoon would be filled with this drumming. It was amazing. And it was one of the things that kind of spurred me to make the connection with autism, because a lot of autistic people will do stimming, as most of you will know, but it's short for self-stimulation, not sexually, but in terms of soothing yourself, kind of using rhythm, using repetitive action as a way to create order. Again, it's the order thing. And it comforts a person and soothes their nerves. And so this guy really fell into that. And since then, at that point, I had never heard anybody else, and researchers with recordings of drumming. But since then, I've heard a lot of it from around North America. And the other thing that happened was I got a short video of a small one. It may have been Music Man. It may have been another one, a small one behind a pine tree. The pine tree was only 4 feet tall and pretty sparse. And this shadowy figure was behind it. And I didn't see him, of course, with my eyeballs at the time, but the camera picked him up. And a sharp-eyed viewer commented, at this timestamp, there's a head behind that little tree. And so I went back and I enhanced it best I could. And you can see the basic shape and the cone head and everything. But, I only have about 4 seconds of this behind the tree. And then I turned the camera away. And the third thing that happened was that I got a barrage of pine cones thrown at me from like 150 or 200 feet away. And don't be thinking of those fluffy, light pine cones that wouldn't fly more than 12 feet. These are the dense, green, super ripe pine cones that you can throw. That, if you had a good arm, you could throw that far. And this one certainly did. And of course, it's not squirrels. I looked above me, and there are no squirrels up there doing this. And in fact, on 2 occasions, though I wasn't clever and lucky enough to catch this on camera, I saw them flying. Where's my hand? Flying from that screen of trees in the other direction, not the same screen as drumming, a different screen, flying from the ground level up and arcing through the sky to the tree next to me. And I put the camera down in the sort of like propped up in the ground next to me, looking over my shoulder up into the tree that was next to me with what they kept hitting. And I managed to catch one coming down at an angle from the sky. So that was good. But so it was so much fun. I mean, they would come in like 12 per minute sometimes. And I would say, can you try to hit me? And then like moments later, with a boom on the top of my head. It was delightful. My mother saw that. And she said, weren't you scared? Why do you seem so happy? And I said, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
You just don't get it, man. This is exactly what people like me wish for.
Yeah.
It's sort of an intimacy of interaction and play. And
Right.
some people said, no, he was threatening. He wanted you out of there. I said, bullshit.
Why would he throw pine cones? He could throw a tree at you if he wanted to. If he wanted you out of there.
Charge me. He could throw rocks. More to the point.
Yeah, right.
I know. So no. So you know. But then I did a stupid thing, and this is all in that video. My 2 years of learning in the ravine, and it was to to put a hidden camera. You know those little bullet cameras? They're like 2-3 inches long, and they're cylindrical. And so I got a drill, and I drilled through a fallen tree. I drilled through, and I put the bullet cam in there, and then the video / power cable. I bought extra cable, so I had 200 feet worth of it, and I meticulously and laboriously buried it a few inches all the way up 200 feet to a place where it came out of the ground, and then I could come in with my laptop and connect it, and I had a battery, an external battery that I would connect it had a two prongs, and one into the video of my laptop and one into the external battery pack, and then the camera would come to life. But of course, he didn't do the same thing. I had it in the area behind the screen of trees where the drumming always came from. I thought, this will get him, you know. You're not going to believe what happened next, and this too is all in the video. Which was for months I would come in, I'd plug in the laptop, and I would sit there and say, "Hi, music man, how you doing?" You know, nothing. A deafening silence, absolute like a tomb in there. And so after a couple of months, it was September. I had put this thing in March, and it was September. And I said, "Well, screw this," and I went and I pulled the camera out, and I started dragging this long ass cable out over my shoulder, and I left smartly audio recorder there, and you can hear me dragging, walking through the crunchy leaves and dragging this long cable. And you can hear it going away into the distance where I put it in my car, and just when I'm out of earshot, you hear for the first time all spring and summer and fall, you hear like. And you hear like whoo, you hear whoo. And it's just absolutely bizarre. The level of consciousness and awareness that they have is just, you just can't grasp it. They are so far, and everybody said this. And in the beginning of my time researching this subject, I would think people were overstating it, or they were being too mystical, or they were, too new agey about Sasquatch and romanticizing them and stuff, because after all, they're just flesh and blood, and they're not wizards, they're not omniscient. Right. But the more I work with them, the more I come over to like Mike Patterson's side, giving them the respect that's due to them based on what they actually can do. I don't know that he was there even in the flesh when he knocked and I pulled the camera out of there. I just think that they can be present sometimes without being visible, and I think they can make noises. In fact, one time, many years later, 2 Mays ago, May 2nd, I was walking in my local woods about 100 yards from here, and damned if I didn't hear a very clear wood knock, middle of the day, 65 degrees, no trees are cracking in the cold, 65 degrees. It was May, it was springtime. And I hear like very clear wood knock, like obviously 20 feet in front of me, and there's nobody there. So I turned on the camera and I tried to document this, but it didn't go very well. I got some on audio, but my steps kind of stepped on it, so it's not that clear, but I heard a total of 4 wood knocks right close around me from different parts of the area, wood on wood, invisible. And I'd heard about that, and I always thought, well, I just can't go there because, it's impossible. Well, now I've experienced that. And I've actually recently, we don't need to get into this much because it's just a brand new thing and it's not ready to share quite yet. I've been working on a book about putting the Sasquatch phenomena into the context of centuries long researching into spirit contact. And I have this pet theory that this kind of level of paranormal or woo Sasquatch ability is parallel or the same darn thing as what people experience with ghosts and poltergeists and contact between the living and the dead. So that'll be like in the next few months, I'll be putting out that book, and then we can maybe talk about it more.
That's the one you sent me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was perusing it. I'll tell you, there's a lot of great topics in it, and I did read chapter 13.
Yeah, it wasn't quite finished when I sent you that, but so it has some patchy stuff that I've since filled in. But yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good.
Thank you. All
And
this stuff, like for instance, Mike Patterson and others have things appearing out of nowhere. Mike Patterson and people have ridiculed him, just like we were talking earlier about this ridicule syndrome. And they've ridiculed him for saying that he'll have marbles suddenly fall from thin air and land on the floor and roll across the floor. Well, it turns out, I found out through this research the last bunch of months working on this book that this is a long and very well-known phenomenon within spiritual practice, not spiritual in terms of religion and God so much,
paranormal.
as with spirits. They will manifest apports, they're called apports, which is from the French verb to bring. And they will manifest these objects. Sometimes it is marbles, just like Mike Patterson gets with his Sasquatch family. And sometimes it's coins, and sometimes it's a necklace or a gem or crystal. These will come out of thin air. And this has been happening for centuries, but people haven't connected it with what happens at the fringes. Fringe is kind of a derogatory word, perhaps. At the edges of Sasquatch capability, people recognize and experience these things like invisible wood knocks and manifestations, and seeing Sasquatches cloaking. I think that, in my view, and then I'll stop because there's nothing I can refer you to look at from this book because it's not published yet. But so it's annoying to talk about it. But having said that, people talk about cloaking as if flesh and blood living Sasquatch can make themselves invisible. And my view is that it's more likely deceased Sasquatches who are materializing rather than material flesh and blood, dense, solid, muscled, living Sasquatch making themselves invisible, because there's a long history, in fact, millennia of history of dead people materializing in front of living people, but not a history of living people disappearing. So I think the same is probably the case with Sasquatch. So I'm in a small camp. Most people either think that they're just flesh and blood and they can't do any of this spooky stuff, or they're flesh and blood and they can do this spooky stuff, or some people think they're just ghosts. They're only spirit beings. They're not flesh and blood. I think they're flesh. I think they're like us. We're spirit and flesh and blood. They're spirit and flesh and blood. We can die and then sometimes manifest back to those who are still on earth. And I think they can do the same. And I think that, to me, that more likely accounts for what people experience of the bizarre nature with Sasquatch manifestations.
Here's some more of this. What I think is so important in this field is the thinking outside the box. Not just falling into line. Because in the end, and I know this is said over and over, but it's said over and over for a reason. In the end, until there's one somewhere to study, we don't know. So It's silly to say that someone's ideas are, worse than someone else's. And your idea of this is based in folklore and a history of this happening for a very long time. What did Steve say? Apports of the marble sorts.
Yeah, that's a good one too. We're still on a roll, so to speak. Get it? Marble roll.
But so I did some paranormal stuff before this, right?
Oh, you
And
did? I forgot.
yeah, before, and I'm going to start doing it again, because I
Well,
just
you've been
want to.
going to ghost. You've been going to haunted spots on your channel here.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. One of the place that I go to do my Sasquatch research is also haunted. Has a history of different hauntings in different
Convenient,
places.
isn't it?
What's that? Yeah, convenient. I
Convenient.
know, absolutely convenient. And I believe these things too. I believe it's that there's something else going on there. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm still doing my own kind of.
Yeah, we got to chew on it for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that they're more. I just think that they're more spiritually adept and advanced than we are.
Absolutely.
By spiritually, I mean the same thing as psychically. And I think they can do the mind speak better than most of us. So why shouldn't they also be able to materialize and dematerialize from after death better than we can? I mean, it's a rare individual of Homo sapien who can become a visible and interactive spirit after they die. But I think it's probably much more common that the Sasquatch people can do this, and that they can essentially hang out with their kin and companions between living ones and dead ones. And wouldn't we all like to have that state of affairs? I think they've mastered it, and we can only learn from them.
Yeah, agreed. I've said this since the beginning. One of the things that I say about them is that why I think they can do these things is because they have not lost the connection to everything natural around them. Not only that connection probably continued to grow, whereas our connection to what we were supposed to be probably, and the gifts that we were blessed with has been disconnected to a degree over time, because we've relied on other things to make our lives easier and more comfortable, where they have learned to live in tune with everything around them. And I think when you do that, it keeps you more in tune with yourself, with your body, with your mind, with the gifts that you're given. Albert Einstein said if we could use all of our brain, we'd be just a giant ball of energy. And he's probably right. Who knows?
It's funny you say that, because actually a lot of times when people have near-death experiences, they feel themselves to be a sphere of awareness or a sphere of energy.
Right.
And lots of times also people see these orbs, and the orbs seem to be spheres of energy, and they see them in association with Sasquatch. My hunch is that these are Sasquatch spirits hanging out with the living Sasquatch, and the living Sasquatch may use them to kind of like check us out. That's why people see orbs kind of come close and look, sort of survey them. And I think there's a collaboration between the living and the dead in the Sasquatch people. And Mike Patterson sees orbs all the time.
Yeah.
And he also there's a couple videos in which he and his research partner there, Dwayne, are standing in the snow in the middle of the night. And they're standing there, and all of a sudden, invisibly, there's a 15-inch 5-toed track stamped into the snow right behind them.
Yeah.
This is the type of thing that spirits can do in seances that I've been looking into and learning about. And so why shouldn't it be the same case with Sasquatch?
Yep, absolutely. Maybe it's and I'm not taking anything away from your theory, but maybe it's a little bit that could be that, or it could be that they kind of tiptoe between both worlds, that they have the ability to kind of be in both places at once, that they are.
I think the dead can, And what do I know? Perhaps the living can too. But my hypothesis so far is that you can't, if you're a 900-pound dense flesh and blood creature, you can't disappear. People say, well, quantum takes place on the atomic level. It doesn't take place on a macro level of a giant body like that. I think, to me anyway, and I definitely open to be proven wrong, it's more likely that the dead can freely converse in both dimensions, if you want to call it, and the living just enjoy the fruits of that companionship and camaraderie with those that their ancestors or their loved ones who have passed on. But
It's a great theory. It speaks to everything that the paranormal field studies all the time.
Most of this new book is not about Sasquatch. This is just one chapter. So I've become fascinated by the history of people interacting with the spirits of their own loved ones and spirits in general. It's all kinds of rich material that I've managed to unearth, including books written in the 1800s that are sort of neglected now, and it's been fascinating.
Yeah,
So,
I'm excited to read it.
you'll be one of my first readers then.
Well, I'm excited. I have read the autism book. I have not. I have. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't read the Savant book yet, though, and
no need to read that. That contains the same stuff. The most recent book called Sasquatch and Autism is sort of the distillation of the best of that book. So don't worry about that book.
Okay. And I didn't read the first book, which is called Impossible Visits, is it not?
There was one called Impossible Visits, but that got superseded by Our Life with Bigfoot.
Okay, that's the one I'm thinking.
There's more in the second book than was in the first book, but everything in the first book is in the second book. So that's now out of print, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Well, then you'll have to send me a copy personally.
I will.
Pays to have a friend who's an author.
Oh man, I don't do much in this life, but I do write books, and they're okay.
They're good. They're good books. If you have not read any of Chris's books, please, I'm begging you to read them. Matter of fact, I will have the link in the description of the YouTube video for where you can find some of those books. I know Amazon's got some, and I actually found a website called Goodreads that had some of your books.
Oh yeah. Amazon is the way to get it. I think that's pretty much the only way to get it, except maybe you can order it through Goodreads, but whatever. What was I going to say? Something fascinating, no doubt. No. You know what? My battery, I neglected to plug in this laptop before we started, and now my battery is getting dangerously low. So I'm either we stop or I go get the plug.
That's all right. Here, can I get just a couple questions in before we go? You think we can do that? All right. So let me get a couple of these questions in from the chat. Christine wants to know, what else do they have to play with other than their surroundings? Makes sense. We all have toys. All right. So maybe that wasn't really a question for you, but
no, yeah, that's exactly the thing. That's why it makes no sense that they wouldn't build and make things out of tree. I mean, what do they have? Their materials. The materials of their existence are trees and sticks, branches, rocks.
It's all stuff I played with as a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't we? It's fun to play. It's fun to make things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and all primates do that, even not the higher ones, even little primates do that, but especially the apes. Apes they make nests, they play with things, they play with sticks, so it's an extension of that same thing. And Sasquatch are so much more advanced than even us when it comes to forest matters, that
Sure.
they're gonna either they've been known to cover their tracks. Literally, they'll sweep away their tracks, but they don't. But they'd have to be absolutely manic to completely to build things and then completely disassemble them before any pair of human eyes clapped onto it. So
Right.
we get to see them. And they're okay with that, because I think Mike Patterson thinks this, and I think this too, that there's a certain mentorship and apprenticeship going on between them and us. And I think for whatever reason, whether it's autism related or some other reason, they don't directly teach us, but neither does the spirit realm, neither does any divinity that people believe in. There's always this sort of this kind of deciphering that needs to go on. It's not open and shut. It's not direct, and Sasquatch teaching is no different.
Right. Right. Bernie said, Chris, earlier you suggested that Sasquatch was partly human, or that we may share a common ancestor. Could you elaborate on that?
I've never come across a persuasive debunking of Melba Ketchum's findings. And she found, not only her, but others too, found that Sasquatch DNA, it comes in two parts. There's the mitochondrial DNA, which are these little, what do you call them? They're called the powerhouse of the cell. And there's a bunch of them in each cell. And they have their own loop of about 15,000 base pairs of DNA. And then there's the nuclear DNA, which is 3 billion base pairs in our own species, which is father and mother together. But the mitochondrial DNA is just the mother. And this loop of DNA can be used as kind of a lens to look back through time along the maternal line. And this, Melba Ketchum found through many, many samples, and other researchers have found too, is human. It's human DNA from the mother's side, but it's not thoroughly modern DNA. It's kind of almost modern, but it has enough mutations that you can use what's called the molecular clock to read back the amount of time that it took for those mutations to take place, because they take place at a kind of a regular, a reliable rate. So it's about 15,000 years ago that, according to her, this kind of regime of interbreeding took place between our species and a male primate not yet discovered by us right now. So, and it need not have been a gigantic male primate. There's this hybridization between our species could have produced an offspring that is larger and more fit than either of the parents. This is called hybrid vigor, and it's a phenomenon that does take place. For instance, a lion and a tiger can give birth to a liger, and these freaking ligers are a third again larger than either of the parents.
Gigantic.
So we don't need to think of the what do you call the male progenitor species of Sasquatch as being like 12 feet tall or 10 feet tall. It could have been just a little bit bigger than our own species, and we produce this like freak of nature that still lives among us today.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. That's a great parallel, actually, is the liger.
Yeah.
Because that thing is, like you said, it's a third bigger than either of its parents. Completely gigantic. I mean, just massive creature.
Have you ever met a liger?
Not in person. No, I wish I could.
Man. I wish I could too.
Yeah, that's on the bucket list for sure. There's one down in the Busch Gardens, or what's that? No, what's that place called?
Where, in New York?
No, what's that?
Florida?
Oh, it was that guy. Right? No, was it Doc Antle or was it Busch Gardens that had the liger?
I'm not sure.
I think it was Busch Gardens that had it. But his name's Hercules. You can go this backstage tour, and they put you in like a lifeguard chair way up high, and things like 8 feet tall.
Give it food, and it'll stand up there.
Yeah, they get it. Put a steak on a stick, and then you hold it out, and this thing stands up 9 feet tall on its back legs and takes that steak off the stick while you're facing it, and its head is like, it's literally like, I don't even know how big. It's got to be this big, maybe bigger. I mean, it's just massive. Looks like a dinosaur. Looks like a dinosaur.
Well, that's what we have in Sasquatch, only the non-feline kind of hybrid. So that's why I think that they were originally 50-50, if this is true. And again, I've never heard a better explanation. People say, well, they're Gigantopithecus. Well, then why would they have human DNA?
Right.
And if this is true, then they were 50-50 human and other primate in the beginning. And then since then, they've primarily been reproducing with their own kind. So now they're not exactly 50-50 human and other. They're just the maternal side is human, but they have enough traits that they're our closest kin, our next of kin on Earth is what I call them.
One more question real quick, and then we'll get you out of here. Do you think that maybe that happens in humans that are covered in hair, the same anomaly?
Anomaly? Yeah.
Anomaly.
That's
Same
good.
anomaly.
I mean, you know how science has found that all of us have a little Neanderthal in us, except for Africans. And also some of us, especially the Southeast Asians, have like 10% Denisovan also. So that provides a window into breeding back in the day. And I'll bet you once Sasquatch DNA is completely sequenced, as it will be, we'll find that some of us have more and some less Sasquatch. And I bet you hairy people may have more. Could be. You?
I'm hairy, man.
Let's see it. Take your shirt off.
I'm hairy, dude. I'm a hairy guy. I don't have hair on my back or anything, but I'm pretty hairy.
So you're not gross.
Yeah, no. Well, I don't know. I'm maybe still gross, but
okay. All right.
Well, listen. I waited for this for a long time. I bugged you and bugged you and bugged you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I've been dragging my feet.
I know you have, and I don't understand why, because this was such a good interview.
Well, I wasn't afraid of it. I just, you had all sorts of other guests on. I thought, well, he doesn't need me yet. I'll wait till. And now it turns out I could have said Christmas because my name is Noel and I'm born the day after Christmas. So that's when I'll do the interview. And it all turned out that way anyway.
Well, it was wonderful. I wanted you on. That's the point. I wanted you to come on. I waited because I knew you had your research going on and you said November. And then I said in November, I said, okay, it's November.
It's November.
What do you think? And then you dragged your feet until December.
Partly that my headspace was so clogged up with finishing the book, this new book.
Yeah.
And now I've pretty much finished it. It's called, just in case anyone wants to think about it in the future, it's called There Is No Veil. Because it argues that there's not different dimensions where it's all the same dimension. It's just that it's different vibrations and we can't see. Our loved one might be 2 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
So I have reasons in the book why I think it's better to not think of it as a separate dimension. There's usually a barrier or a veil, but it's subjective. It's like a mirage. It's a state of mind. And there are people who from childhood can see the dead all around them. So there's no objective veil or barrier. It's different minds are blocked and some minds are not blocked. So that's kind of one of the arguments in the book. Anyway, I interrupted you. We're trying to wrap up.
No, it's good. You're good. That's good, man. Fresh says, thank you, gentlemen. More Chris Noel. I agree. I think you need to come back on sooner than later so that we can continue talking, because this is a really fascinating conversation. I
appreciate that. And I appreciate you, Joanna, saying the hair in the back is not gross. Hey, whatever your cup of tea is, whatever floats your boat, I'm all for it.
Oh boy. So yeah, this is great. I love
somebody K Talk agrees with my idea of the veil. Well, get in touch with me, K Talk, on Facebook. I'll send you a free copy.
Look at that. Look at that.
We give away gifts on this show.
This is a Christmas giveaway on Encrypted Connections with Christopher Noel.
I just thought of it, but because she or he said that, it makes me want to give her or him a copy.
Well, then you know what we'll do? We'll call it, because I hit 800 subscribers yesterday.
Yes.
We'll call it the 800 subscriber Christmas Noel giveaway on Encrypted Connections. And you, Kay,
kind of a mouthful, but all right.
it's all right. Did you ever watch The Office?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the Michael Scott Cure for Rabies Fun Run for the Cause? You remember that episode? Talk about a mouthful. One of the best shows ever created. If you don't agree, we cannot be friends.
No, you know how he says yes, yes,
yes.
That's what I'll say to that.
Oh, great! This is wonderful, Chris.
I love that. Well, you get in touch with me. Are you on Facebook? Friend me on Facebook.
Friend him on Facebook, K-Talk. If you have a hard time getting in touch with him, my email's right here. Email me, and I'll point you in the right direction.
There you go.
I'll get you that book. Right. This was wonderful. You and me talk all the time, so we'll be in touch. I'm sure.
Can you edit out the first 10 minutes, or you just have to put up whatever it was from the beginning?
Well, this was live streamed, so it's
you can't edit. You can download it yourself and edit that out, and then put it up separately.
It's on there. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah.
Or I can do it if you want me. I help you. I just don't want people to have to suffer through that first 10 minutes.
Well, that's what fast forward's for.
Good point.
Just saying, you know.
But they won't know just from looking whether it's safe to come back. It'll be a sort of a bitch for them. But all right.
Well, we'll see. If it starts to be a problem, if I go look at my views and the views are down from the normal views, then I'll edit it out. Okay. If it's getting the regular views, I'm going to leave it. The people here, my subscribers are very forgiving. Listen, I'm a very flawed guy. They come to watch me anyway. So, you know, they're forgiving. Trust me, they're good people, very good people.
So you need to what do you call, take advantage of their tolerance and make them watch the first 10 minutes.
That's it. That's it.
All right.
Oh, man. You're the best, man. I'm so happy that we've gotten to know each other and that I can call you a friend. And it's great. It really is.
Me too. It's kind of nice that we waited until tonight to actually see each other and talk to each other. It's kind of like waiting for marriage to have the first sexual encounter. That's the kind of thing that just kind of pops into your head and you say, fuck it, I'm going to say it.
Guess what? My first sexual encounter went way worse than this.
I think I can agree with you. I think most of our audience can agree with that also.
Oh, God, this is great.
There was no veil involved in my first sexual All right, that's enough. All
right, we're going to end it on that note so that whoever watches this is going to go, what the hell?
What the hell just happened?
What happened? Happened. You guys, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for 800 subscribers. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification button. I never say this ever on any of my lives.
I know. I hate when people say that, but in this case, it's warranted.
I'm saying it now. Please, we are 200 away from 1,000. It's a big deal to me. I told you when we hit 1,000, I'm doing a giveaway. It'll be the first piece of Encrypted Connections merchandise ever. Okay, one of one. No one else will ever have it. It'll be one of one. You'll never see
an NFT. It'll be like a Trump NFT trading card.
Exactly. This will be one piece of merch that no one else will ever have. I know this. I'm not Picasso, but I still think that's pretty cool. So let's get to 1,000, please. Thank you so much for getting me to 800. It's amazing. I am so grateful for all of you. I will be on with Daniela tomorrow night again as her co-host with Shane Carpenter and Randy Harrington from Ozark Mountain Sasquatch. Those guys have some really cool stuff to share. So if you're not busy, please tune in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central. And if you can't, then I will be back with you on Friday here. And I'm not going to tell you with what, but you'll find out soon. Please say thank you to Christopher.
Is it Santa Claus?
It might be. I might be dressed up as Santa. It'll be worth tuning in to find out. Sure. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you, man. And we'll have you back on very soon. You guys have a wonderful night. Love and light. And
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, guys. See you on the next one.